Hey everybody, welcome to this month's safety video. This is actually for November. We had a snafu with the first time we recorded this, so we're doing it again. Sorry it's a little bit late. And there's a few things that I want to talk about this month, the main topic being making good decisions. And this incorporates almost everything we do as drivers. Everything from when we're slowly maneuvering, whether that's backing into a spot or driving, in and around a receiver or shipper's property. You've got to be driving slow, driving deliberate, thinking. Most of the incidents that we have as a company are in those kind of situations. It's easy to get compliant and make bad decisions when you're driving at a slow speed because it seems like you're safe and nothing's going to happen, but that's when most things occur. So especially when you're backing up, don't be afraid to, fall back on that acronym that we all know, GOAL, get out and look. If there's any question about anything, get out and look. When we're backing up, I pretty much always got out and looked at one point or another just to make sure everything was lined up and looking good, especially if it's a blind back. Blind backs are super tricky, no matter how good you are. Get out, look, kind of get everything generally lined up before you go all the way back. Just make sure your back end's where you think it is. Get out and look. It never hurts to do that. It's always better to be safe rather than sorry. Getting out and looking is less embarrassing than actually hitting something. So do that. And another thing that's really common is, making one bad decision that may not have resulted in anything significant, but then, compounding that and making another bad decision. Let me give you an example. There was one time I was driving in Dallas. It was in the middle of the night, and I ended up turning down and a little roadway / alley, and I got not very far into it after I turned in, and there was a gate at the end of it that was closed, and I couldn't get out. There's no room to maneuver, no way to turn around, no way to get out. And I turned off like a super big road, like 3 lanes in each direction. And the only way to get back out of there was going to be backing into that lane of traffic. So bad decision number 1, going into that area where I probably should have done a little bit better job researching. Bad decision number 2 would have been if I would have just backed out and hoped either no traffic would have come because it was the middle of the night or people would have stopped. But reality was there was enough traffic on that road, even in the middle of the night, that chances are somebody was going to be coming down and maybe not paying attention. And the most catastrophic accidents in trucking is when somebody goes under the side of a trailer. So I decided I'm not going to do that. I decided to make a good decision after my bad decision. I called the non-emergency line of the police officers. They actually came out. It took about a half an hour, but they came out here and they thanked me for doing that because they've seen far too often when a driver does something like that and backs out, and it can cause all kinds of problems. So they were super happy. They were nice about the whole situation. They weren't demeaning to me. They helped me get the truck back out, and I got on my way. So, don't let one bad decision turn into multiple bad decisions that just kind of get progressively worse as those decisions go on. Other bad decisions that I see getting made, not just, I'm not pointing out any of our drivers necessarily, but I see it on the road as I'm driving down the road. Semi trucks should almost never do U-turns unless you're being directed by an officer, or if you're in like a shipper receiver, sometimes we have to do it there. But out on public roads, like there is almost no situation where you should be doing U-turns in a semi. We saw that happen in Florida not too long ago, and it was catastrophic, and it ended up killing, I think, 3 people in a minivan. Don't do that. Where you stop, make sure you're stopping in safe places. We don't want to be stopped in somewhere where there's traffic or people aren't going to be paying attention, around a blind curve. You may be stopped in a perfectly legal place, but, that doesn't mean that it's still not it could be less safe than, pulling another 100 or 200 yards down the road where you're not right in a curve or something like that. Another thing I want to talk about is inspections. Inspections over this last summer increased 67%. We've seen that as a company, and this is all across the board. This is everybody nationwide. You're seeing this increase. So we should always be in a position where our trucks and our logs, our drivers, everybody is okay to get inspected. We shouldn't be afraid of inspections. So make sure you're doing your pre-trips, you're checking and you're spotting anything that needs to be taken care of, and you're letting us know so that we can get it fixed. And do that, do your pre-trips, do your post-trips, just make sure you're doing that. Make sure you're staying in compliance with all the hours of service rules. The biggest trip ups that we're seeing right now are tires. Make sure you're doing really good checks on your tires. You need to check the wear and tear on your tires every day. Things can change. Sometimes there's one side of the tire that is bad, but the rest of it looks good, and you're not going to notice that if it's if the truck's sitting on that part of the tire. So you need to be checking on a regular basis so that you're catching those kind of things. And then brakes. Make sure you're checking your brake pads on a regular basis. And that they're good and that they're adjusted well. And all you have to do to make sure your brakes are adjusted, a couple times a day, you need to make sure you push all the way down on your brake, hold it there for a few seconds, and it'll auto adjust. Do that a couple times a day and you should be good on the adjustment. We're kind of wearing out brakes faster than we should be. Make sure you are, especially driving down hills, or coming to stops, anywhere you can, you're using your engine brake as much as possible, slowing down well in advance so the engine can do most of the braking. You're not actually having to use the brakes. One of the rules of thumb that I think is great is when you're going downhill, you need to be in one gear lower than it took to climb that hill. So if you climb that hill in 6th gear, going down it, you should be in 5th gear. If you're climbing the hill in 8th gear, go down it in 7th gear. If you're doing that, you stick to that, your engine's always going to be able to hold it back, and you're rarely going to have to use the brakes, maybe just for some curves or something like that. Keep those things in mind. As always, be safe out there. Appreciate all your hard work and your attention to safety. Let me know what is the one thing that stuck out most to you in this video. Either text, call, or email me. Let me know that, and look forward to hearing what you have to say. Thanks.